Amidst the effects of the global pandemic that has disrupted economies worldwide, leading to fears of the development of the deep state, Uganda and her sister neighboring states have a cause to smile again following the decision that was taken last weekend. By lunchtime of the 11th of April 2021, Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan, her host President Yoweri Museveni, and Total E&P Chairman and CEO Patrick Puyani had signed 3 pacts that will see Uganda's oil out of the ground. The pacts include Host Government Agreement, which governs the rights and obligations concerning development, construction and operation of a project by France's Total E&P and China's. The Shareholders Agreement, which governs and describes how the East African crude oil pipeline venture will be operated to include cash calls and gearing ratios. And the Tariff and Transportation Agreement, where the Tanzanian and Ugandan governments, together with Total and CNOOC, committed to always transport the crude oil in the proposed East African crude oil pipeline. After the signing of the pacts, the 2 heads of states optimistically shared their thoughts what this means to the countries and the region at large.
The project will yield revenues to both countries while creating short and long-term employment for both highly skilled and semi-skilled professionals as well as casual laborers, thus addressing the unemployment challenge.
Prosperity and strategic security are only possible if we use the Pan-Africanist approach that gives us a bigger market and rationalizes economic linkages. The same corridor can take a return gas pipeline supplying Tanzanian and Mozambican gas to Uganda and the Great Lakes region.
Uganda's crude oil is estimated at 6.5 billion barrels, with 1.4 billion commercially recoverable. Available data indicates 57% of workers in the next phase will be Ugandans, bringing in at least $48.5 million annually. Ugandans will also provide goods and services valued at $15 billion. It is believed that this will usher in an opportunity of breaking poverty and propel Uganda into a middle-income status. With all this said and done, questions arise. Is Uganda ready to tap into the job opportunities this brings? How prepared are the youth who for a long time have blamed government for ignoring them? Is this project all Uganda has been waiting for to permanently change its economic course? This and more in NBS Frontline. NBS Frontline.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's edition of the Frontline. Go to our conversation platforms already. The hashtag is NBS Frontline on Twitter and as well as on Facebook. If you have a question or comment about our oil sector tonight, the next 2 hours will be dedicated to that conversation. A warm welcome to our audience on 106.1 Next Radio and as well as to our online audience, especially to our audience in diaspora. Now, we know that on the 11th of April, President Yoweri Museveni over this great country and Samia Suluhu Hassan issued a joint communique after witnessing the signing of critical agreements in what could be considered very vital steps to seeing our oil dreams in the country. And I want to read part of that communique verbatim. The first part after the different statements says, now therefore the 2 heads of state agree and direct as follows, that 1, that each state party takes all necessary steps required for the implementation of the Jacob project, that having concluded the Tariff and Transportation Agreement and the Host Government Agreement for the Republic of Uganda and the shareholding agreement for the shareholders to the Jacob company, the companies can now launch the Jacob project and award the main engineering procurement and construction contracts that the United Republic of Tanzania to finalize the signing of the Host Government Agreement and related agreements between the government of Uganda, rather between the government, that's the Tanzanian government, and Jacob company, done at Entebbe on the 11th of April 2021. And my panel this evening to look at issues. Oil is the Member of Parliament for Remiyaga constituency. He also chairs the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Oil and Gas. The last time we talked, he was interested in being Deputy Speaker of the 11th Parliament. He has successfully been kept out of Chankwanzi this time. Welcome to the Frontline, Honorable Theodore Sechikubo.
Thank you, Sabit, and good evening, viewers. And for the issue of the Deputy Speaker, Sabit, you're aware, the party chairman came out strongly against an expression of interest, whether right or wrong. I hope being kept out of Chankwanzi is not the end in itself. We shall soon be finding out.
For the first time, Honorable Sechikubo is respecting the directive of the chairman. That's quite impressive. We have the government spokesman and executive director, Uganda Government Media Center, Mr. Ofona Opondo Podel. I know that you should be, or you have been, or you're on your way to Chankwanzi as well, but welcome to the Frontline, sir.
Thank you, Joseph. Good evening to our viewers. May I take the opportunity to publicly congratulate my brother, Theo, upon being re-elected as MP for Wemiyaga. He will be making his 25th year by the end of this term in Parliament. But let me
Doesn't look like he's about to stop.
Yeah, but let me just correct the wrong impression you have created. Honorable Sechikubo and all incumbent members of Parliament haven't been excluded from attending Chankwanzi retreat because the Speaker wrote to the party, asked the party, said the Parliament has business, especially passing the budget, ministerial policy statement, and therefore she cannot release incumbent members of Parliament. Consequent upon which the party decided to take only fresh members of Parliament, MPs elect.
Okay.
Those are the only ones who are there. Plus the members of the Central Executive Committee, who are 27. And as you can see, the Speaker herself, who is a member of that SEC, hasn't gone. Maybe now that she has adjourned the Parliament to Tuesday next week, tomorrow we expect her through the weekend. But that is the position. Honorable Sechikubo hasn't been denied access to Chankwanzi. At an appropriate time, all aspirants from the NRM party who have expressed interest in the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, will be given an opportunity to address the right forum that chooses or processes candidates for speakership.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that clarification. And Mr. Ali Sekatawa is the Director, Legal and Corporate Affairs at our national oil company. He is listening to our political conversations with a smile. But welcome to the Frontline. Don't worry, we're not going to be talking politics, so you're very safe.
Thank you, Sabit, and thank you, the viewers. I think, again, I will correct that I'm a director in the Petroleum Authority,
Okay.
and not the National Oil Company. And I'm happy to be here in between two political giants. I will not make any comment on further.
On Chankwanzi. Thank you very much. And that correction, I think, should be put on record that he's a Director, Legal and Corporate Affairs at the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. I beg your pardon for that. Let's start our conversation with the events of the 11th of April. And Mr. Ali, I'll start that with you. What does that mean for the country?
April 11th, first, is a historical day for this country. What happened is it was the launch of the oil projects in upstream in Tilenga and also for the pipeline. And the launch is, the last time I was here, and everyone was asking, you have been promising us, you have been promising us. For us, April 11th was the day, because it's the day we concluded the infrastructure that has been holding us. Last time I was here, I indicated that the pipeline, because we are landlocked, we need to access the sea in the first place. So we need access to the sea. We did that through first a treaty that we finished in 2017 with Tanzania, where they allowed us to reach the sea, because you remember we are negotiating with also Kenya, and we chose Tanzania. Then after that, we had to make 4 or 5 fundamental agreements. And these are the ones. We did the host government agreement between us and the pipeline. Tanzania did it between Tanzania and the pipeline. We initialed them some time back. So on April 11th, we are now finalizing the agreements for those For the Ugandan one, we finished it. Tanzania, it was ready, but they indicated they cannot sign from another territory. So they requested that the signing for that is in Tanzania. Then we needed shareholders for the pipeline, which is going to pass through Tanzania. Again, Tanzania came as a shareholder, the Chinese company came, the Total came, which is a majority shareholder, and Uganda. Again, that was signed, which is the shareholding agreement. We also needed a commitment for the transportation, which is the transportation agreement, basically, between the government and all the people who have oil upstream and the pipeline company. So we, again, that's the TTA, that's the Tariff and Transportation Agreement. So again, we signed that we shall export that crude through that pipeline, and we agreed the terms of it. And why is it historical? It is that that was the last bend for us to start, and as you indicated at the beginning, the project now is ready to award the contracts and start construction. Those contracts are now with government for approval. They are no longer with the project. We've approved some for the early works, which are already starting, and the others are still under review. From a historical perspective, between Uganda and Kenya, and maybe Mr. O.O. can clarify that, April 11th is the day the joint forces of Uganda and what we call the Bakombos defeated Idi Amin. And in that war, even HE was on that battle. So that's why they said it is a double victory for Uganda and Tanzania. Historically, it marked the end of that dictatorship. But then today, I mean on 11th, it is the day again that our journey to the coast was launched. And therefore, we are very excited. We congratulate the people of Uganda and the people of Tanzania on reaching that milestone.
Thank you very much. We'll be looking beyond that agreement. But before I go to the other panelists, let me ask, when a critical document like that is signed on behalf of a country, there should be a copy, some details somewhere at the disposal of the country. Where are the details of the deal signed so far?
The way government operates is that we have just gone through an election where we chose our representatives, the Honorable Sechikubo and all the other people. So usually on such documentation, it is going to be availed to the respective authorities, including parliament and so on. What you need to know is that there's no country in the world that transacts from, from the street, because these are commercial agreements that relates to how it relates, how it deals with its resource. There's nowhere I can ask you, all these countries, developed or not, they have been transacting in oil for the last 50 years. There are certain agreements, even as we are negotiating, that it was very hard for us to access them. So what you do is that we are going to give them to the respective authorities. And secondly, we are going to do a law. There's going to come what is called the ECOP Special Provisions Bill, where some of these provisions are going to be made public.
All right, we'll be joined by the Honorable Dr. Eli Karuhanga, the chairperson of the Private Sector Foundation Uganda, but also President Uganda Chamber of Mines, and a former legislator, I should add, a distinguished one at that. A very good evening from the Political Command Center, Honorable Eli Karuhanga. Thank you for joining us, first of all. From the events of April 11th as the private sector, what is the message that the country should get from that action?
The message is that after a long wait, finally the wedding has taken place, more or less, and we are waiting to see consummation of that wedding. For too long, the government and the private companies have been negotiating. So much time has been spent in Amber House, where the Minister of Energy lives, and at State House in Entebbe. Now, production agreements have been given, awarded to private companies, and work has now been put in the hands of private sector. And you know, the private sector we are talking about are Total and Sinok, and the companies that they are going to subcontract. And these are all international companies of great repute. These are companies with deep pockets who cannot fail to get money. Therefore, our oil is de-risked. As you know, the risk we have in Uganda, there are two types of risks we have. We have the underground risk and the above ground risk. The underground risk is the one which has now been, in a way, de-risked by the signing of these agreements, because for sure now, the people who want to do the refinery, they know that Total and Sinok can get the oil out of the ground because they have the capacity to do so. So they can go ahead and start preparing for the refinery. They risked because now people can invest, and they are investing and signed to build a very expensive heated pipeline, the longest in the world. And then the above ground risks are normally the ones that would drive away the investors. The above ground risks are political risks, social risks, legal risks, risks that involve negotiating how to share the cake. And those are above ground risks, very difficult sometimes even to ensure. The agreements that are done in the Attorney General's office and with the lawyers, those are very complicated agreements. And that's why sometimes they keep them a bit confidential for some time, because we have to compare and benchmark with other countries which have discovered oil, where these companies have made very good deals for themselves. And so we have to make sure that we get a good deal for Uganda. But now, come the 11th April, these were signed, above ground risks were de-risked. Now the issue is, can we get the oil from the ground and de-risk that oil as well? And clearly, hopeful as we are, excited as we are, we have to ensure that the investors are welcomed, because as I keep on saying, they are bringing in a lot of capital, which is very difficult to mobilize in oil and gas in these days, where you have a lot of civil society fighting to stop our project. So these people are coming. We pray that they will not run away, and that our legislators and our government will give them a welcome hand, because I keep on saying that capital is a coward. If you threaten them, they will just run away. But we have de-risked these things. We have signed. Our friends in Tanzania have given us a welcoming hand of brotherhood and friendship. We have a pipeline, and we have got an alternative route to the sea. We always have Mombasa. Now we have Tanga and Dar es Salaam. The way will be cleared, even for the oil, the Tanzanian gas to come through on the same line, as a second line coming this way, bringing gas. We can exploit our minerals like iron ore. There is excitement in the air. We at the Chamber of Mines and Private Sector Foundation now know that Total, Sinok, and the entire private sector is now in charge of the oil with the supervision of the government, but we will not be spending too much time walking from one ministry to another to a local government. That will be working, and we will be.
Honorable Elie, if I can come in right there. Sorry, if I can just come in there. You've spoken about the investors, you've spoken about capital coming in and everything. You see, there's the other aspect of the private sector, the everyday Ugandan who is looking at the opportunities that come with this development. Is this just restricted to the big companies and suit-wearing CEOs in air-conditioned boardrooms?
Solomon, you are broken. I can't hear you now.
If I can just say this again.
I can't hear what you are saying.
Yes, you've spoken very well about...
Repeat.
You've spoken elaborately about the interests of investors and the need to protect capital and the need for civil society not to block the projects. But you see, where's the everyday Ugandan in this equation?
The everyday Ugandan keeps on asking that question. In Uganda, they say, neighbor nangi, bino bya oil nze njija kufuna muki. I think that is a question which must be answered. First of all, even before the oil came, the government has opened so many roads where they would not have opened them in these villages. So the people are already very happy. If you go to those areas, you will be surprised at the road. If you go to Burisa, you'll find more than 16 kilometers of roads in the little town. The whole place has been opened. If you go to Hoima, there is a new airport, which is about 80% complete. So you can fly from London, from Dubai, and buy a ticket to Hoima. That is going to be very good. If you are coming from, say, Fort Potro, you don't have to stop in Entebbe.
Honorable, these people don't fly, they travel by road.
You can transact. The people who are providing food in that area, they will find it very easy to supply food to a market which is so near to them. The people going to school, the health centers, the hospitals. So there is a lot of things that are going for the private person. But that is in general terms. But in real terms, yes, the person who is a Ugandan, even involved in oil at all, who is, say, for example, has an estate, or is in real estate, or has a school, or has a hospital, the person with a real estate, people who have got money, who have security companies, lawyers who have got jobs from these people, accountants, engineers, if they are paid, say, $1 million, they will want to build a house in their villages, and they will pay money to the person in the village to build a house for them. And that person will pay school fees for the children, and will build their own house as well, and will buy a car. That person will develop his farm. That person, so he's not directly involved in the oil business, but he's benefiting. And then, of course, the government will be charging a lot of taxes. These taxes will improve our health centers, will improve our roads, will improve our schools, will train people together with private sector in skilling. And even when oil is gone, people will be so skilled. The country, many countries who have no oil or resources, they survive on the skilled manpower of their people. So this oil is an exciting prospect, an opportunity for this generation.
Thank you, Honorable. We'll be getting back to you in a bit. Honorable Theodore Sechkubo, in 2011, you were at the center of the oil debate in Parliament, and you raised concerns about how the process was going. I still remember that debate. Looking at how far we've come as a country, is there now consolation that we are moving towards the oil dream?
Thank you, Sabit, and our viewers. Well, that's true. Exactly on 11th October 2011 is when we had a 10-point motion in a special sitting of Parliament geared towards putting the oil sector onto the table, getting out of the secrecy that it had been handled. So yes, coming this far, we'll want to say this is a historical moment for the country, in that we seem to be at least starting off to see how, if we can, if at all, realize the dream. But when you say about the double victory of the 11th April, as the director here has enthused, I think that's different a bit, because I would like to concentrate more on the signing. Now for the other defeat of the former President Amin, that's a different matter. Because when government attempted to popularize the day, the Tanzanians developed cold feet, and they never sent their delegations. They left it to us, and eventually government abandoned it. I think the president abandoned it. So for the Tanzanians, I think they came here specifically for the oil, not about the past, I mean, because that is some history. But coming to this summit, we are glad and we remain optimistic, only that we are worried. You see, once you've signed these agreements, they can only be availed to the people of Uganda. Parliament should be visible. And you remember in our resolutions and the resultant laws that we enacted in Parliament, the upstream, midstream, and the lower stream legislations, Parliament is central. You may not go to have Parliament to debate them, but you lay them, and a special committee of Parliament would have opportunity to look at these agreements. And mind you, if you are looking at them post-signing, it means you can't do much about them. Where are the interests of Ugandans? Yes, we have the executive, we have the participating interests in the authority and the company. Yes, thank you very much. But this so-called oil is affecting Ugandans. That's why the people's representatives are very critical at this stage. And that's why we feel a bit not at ease. Number two, you remember also in 2011, Sabit, we signed the standard gauge levy. But in 2011, our standard gauge levy was inaugurated at Munyonyo Resort Hotel. And since 2011, it has remained in Munyonyo. Not even a kilometer has been built. Whereas other countries, the East African countries, like Kenya and Tanzania, have made strides in the construction of the standard gauge levy. Ours was inaugurated at Munyonyo, and it has remained at Munyonyo. So the excitement, we are not saying we are not happy about it, but with hindsight, there was much enthusiasm and excitement. President Salva Kiir was here, President Paul Kagame was here, President Uhuru Kenyatta was here, and the Tanzanian president, they were all here. Whereas theirs took off, ours, unfortunately, as I'm telling you, we inaugurated ours. Don't ask me whether there is a railway line through Munyonyo. That's where we had ours, we commissioned, and that's where it has remained to date. So,
the director speaks about best practice, in the sector world over. The business of oil is not transacted at the veranda on the streets. Would you want to take cognizance of that?
Yes, we are right. That's why we are saying in our legislative framework, you cannot take away the oversight function of Parliament. And we did it systematically and carefully to say, you cannot maybe call the entire Parliament to debate and look at these agreements. But we said they would be put on table, and then with the utmost responsibility handed over to a responsible committee of Parliament. And lastly, has it surprised you, Mr. Sabit, that when we are beginning the construction, the agreements that have been signed, the commencement of the construction shall start in Tanga, not Uganda? Ideally, it should start from where we are. We are the ones pushing it. But look, conveniently, it must start in Tanga. And I hope by the time we reach the shores of Lake Victoria, probably would have put our house to order. But when you see this, and as I've said, with hindsight, that's where we get a bit uneasy. What was not happening here that necessitated the starting of the construction to start from Tanga? You mean we were not ready at that point in time? Did we need to do some panel beating? Does it mean we're not ready at the time of signing? That we first say, let us begin from Tanzania, because for them they are ahead of us, then we shall work backwards. Ideally, Sabit, these are the concerns we have so far at that point in time. But of course, there are other issues at stake.
All right.
Can I,
yes,
for instance, point out one? Why is there much enthusiasm for the pipeline other than the refinery? If you are talking about the multiplier and the accelerator principles, they would much apply when we have a refinery. But for the pipeline, you are just transporting our crude oil, which is waxy, very, very high quality oil of ours. Meaning that you are taking the value additions and other outputs of this oil, plastics, etc., to other countries. You are giving opportunities to other countries. Why are we so much pushing for the pipeline, yet for the country Uganda, it is the refinery that has much more importance and would trigger a lot of other benefits to the country?
All right, at the perfect time to bring in Mr. O'o. Take it up from those questions that I think are very important.
Well, Honorable Sechikubo is arguing as if he hasn't been sitting in Parliament since 2011, when they made rabble-rousing, which eventually led the government to lay the oil and petroleum sector, particularly the process of the upstream, midstream, downstream, onto the table. Now that law, eventually, the agreements, as you remember, if there's no law, I think there is now a policy that it is laid in Parliament. And with the authority of the Speaker, whoever is interested, it is the discretion of the Speaker. And by the Speaker, I mean the Speaker represents the institution of Parliament. You can go and examine the items in the laws, in the agreements that you want. That's the law which the Sechikubo was made. Secondly, we have the normal process of government. All government ministries, including the Ministry of Energy, where oil resides, has consistently appeared before committees of Parliament, the Sessional Committee of Parliament, and the Standing Committee of Parliament, to give policy, to ask for budget, present the budget, and committees process, including the Committee on National Economy, the Budget Committee, upon which their budget is passed for all the activities, including these movements and signing the agreement. Because the minister and the president haven't been using their personal money. They've been using money appropriated by Parliament for them to execute the activities of the ministry, including the processing our oil investment. Thirdly, if wishes were horses, that's what they say, even beggars would ride horses. All of us know the financial, technical, professional incapacity the government of Uganda has, which implies that we must be flexible. We must be able to bend when we are dealing with partners who have stepped forward and they're saying they can assist Uganda take this resource out of the ground and make it usable. And so there is give and take. I think the issue then should be, are we on our guard? Are we very alert that in this, doing this flexibility to accommodate the other stakeholders, we are not cheated? I think that should be the issue. And because of that, you make many compromises, including priority areas of investment. But also you rely on technical advice. When you say you are going to make a road, you have seen people who are making roads when they are building roads. Haven't you noticed that they start with the swampy areas, and they do the bridges first. Sometimes, no. Let me first develop this point.
On what you mentioned.
Let me just develop this point.
Yes.
The ordinary person who is seeing the contractor starting with the bridge will say, why are you doing the bridge? You have left my home. Haven't you seen that when we are doing roads going into town, we do the last mile is the town. They don't start in the town. The last mile is the town. So the idea of
if you can just listen to him,
the idea of starting from Tanga, most probable, and I think that Secretary can answer that, must have been informed by technical consideration of the project. Now, Honorable Sechikubo is one who had said that, no. You leave 11th of April, and the two benefits, actually there are three benefits, which the President mentioned. Military victory, political victory, and now economic investment victory. Political because, military because it was through military means that we were able to remove Idi Amin. At least me, I grew up under Idi Amin. I witnessed the war of 1979. So I know what I'm talking about. I experienced people who were taken away by the state, big people, not small people. The Chief Justice, 5 ministers, Commissioner of Prisons, Inspector General of Police, whose bodies we have never seen. And we ushered in a new dispensation. We have not yet arrived 100%, but the situation has been better that it has enabled us to build a relatively viable, functioning democracy, which enables us to develop, to put our inputs in the things that we want done in the country. So in that respect, the three victories, I think, I would associate with. But then he brings in the standard gauge. Okay, we were 5 countries, or we are 5 countries which were in Munyonyo. How come Rwanda hasn't done even a centimeter? That was symbolic. But also I expect a member of parliament to appreciate the back and forth that comes, because building a standard gauge rail is not like building our village grass-thatched huts.
Same with the oil pipeline.
Same with the oil pipeline. Yes. I wouldn't be, for example, let us ask ourselves, since we discovered the oil, how come it is only now that we are concluding vital agreements? How come that it is during the pandemic of COVID, and for me, this is the real thing, that to be concluding major agreements during the pandemic. First of all, you remember in October last year was when the president traveled to Tanzania, in Chato, and had the late Magufuli, and they signed that agreement. And they agreed with March this year to sign this one of 11th. But because they had just lost Magufuli, then they extended. They said, no, let us postpone.
Okay.
Now, for me, the fact that they were signing these agreements during the height of COVID is a clear signal of the renewed confidence in this sector. Otherwise, we all know that COVID has suppressed investments around the world. So to have people coming to your country to sign these agreements in the middle of COVID, it means they are seeing something important, which perhaps some of us may not be seeing, and I think that's where there is a problem. That
all right.
There are people who are saying that even under COVID, they can put their money in Uganda, and for us, we would doubt. Of course, yes, we can have the doubting Thomases. Yes. It is incumbent on government and the other critical stakeholders to persuade the doubting Thomases. And in that respect, then I can say, maybe the questions Honorable Sechikubo is putting, since he's the chairman of the Parliamentary Committee on Gas and Oil.
It's a forum.
Forum, it is a forum, it is not a parliamentary committee. I would expect her, I would have expected him, that through all this, since, for example, October last year, I would have expected him to have summoned the responsible minister and say, we saw the president traveling to Tanzania. Come to our forum, come to our committee, give us the following explanation.
All right,
so if the minister did not come out by herself I would have expected a responsible member of parliament, especially the one who's leading oil and gas forum, to summon the minister and say, we saw our president going to Tanzania, inking this deal. We want you to come and explain the nitty-gritty.
All right, thank you, Oo. I want to bring in Honorable Karuhanga a bit, but after Honorable Sechikubo, you seem to be budding to. Oo thinks that you failed on your job as a member of parliament to ask those questions at the right time. Yes.
You see, Oo usually finds a point, some corner he may want to hide, but for these matters, you see, we are not reinventing the wheel, Sabit. Uganda, we are lucky that we have experiences to pick from. We have to make choice. There are those countries whose oil turned into a curse, and there are those which have succeeded because of oil. So we are not the pioneers in this field, and I wish you could tell Oo about this. We are not the pioneers in this field. We can pick the best practices because we are so privileged that we are coming almost in after many countries have taken the oil path. So ours is to see which is the best for this country. But one fundamental issue I want to state, whether under the prompting of this parliamentary forum on oil and gas or not, why don't we do the right things? Why must we be first poked, pushed onto the wall for the government, for the stakeholders to know, to sit on the same table? After all, this is our country.
Do you want to take the information from the
moment?
Yes.
After all, Sabit, this is our country. Where is the problem? Tabling these agreements being signed, on whose behalf are you signing these agreements? That's the fundamental question. On whose behalf are you blowing your own trumpet? I thought you should be doing this for the people of Uganda. And the moment you want to close out the people, you are missing the point.
All right.
Members of parliament have, in oil and gas, compelled members to have a forum. In spite of that, members' zeal hasn't died down. That's why we don't have a your team. On whose behalf are you signing these agreements?
All right, Alice, take it up from there.
Can I share this? I'm surprised the direction we've taken. Can we seize the moment as a country? We seize this moment. The last time I was here, I think Oo was saying we discovered commercial oil in 2006. We have had milestones since, including with Honorable Sechikubo. The first milestones were the laws and so on. Can we seize the moment of April 11th, pause there as a country, let it sink, and understand what it is? And the moment is this.
But you see, what is sinking?
Let me finish.
Yes.
The moment is this. The moment is that we have two international companies that agreed on that day to sanction a project that commits them to invest in this country between $10 to $15 billion. $10 to $15 billion. Today, I was talking to my colleagues in Bank of Uganda and so on, and they have indicated that that statement itself in the last 4 days has had an impact on the shillings, a positive impact. Can we then seize the moment? Because the more we divert, I think as a country, maybe we have not understood what has dawned on us. We are signing the biggest contract in this country that has ever signed is Simba, Karuma, and Bujagali. The highest of it is $1.2 billion. The contracts now with government for EPC, for the two EPCs, is worth $4 billion. Can we then seize that moment first? Then we can come back. Honorable Sechikubo is talking about disclosure to Parliament and so on, and I think Oo has answered him. Those agreements were availed to the office of the Speaker. The second set of agreements, which is the IGA that I spoke about, the intergovernmental agreement that was signed with Tanzania, was laid before Parliament. It is with the office of the Speaker. So if I come here today, which is 14, and we signed on 11, and you are saying all the arguments were not availed, I think let's seize the moment. The second point I want to make is that Honorable Sechikubo made this law. There's nothing in that law that says Parliament should negotiate. The law put a route through which those negotiations are done. They must be approved by Parliament and signed by the minister. And then later they come to Parliament. 3, there has been periodic reports to Parliament. As OO said, every year we make policy statements. Even now, it is in Parliament that has been giving progress of everything. So for me, the issue of saying there's no disclosure in Parliament, maybe this is a political debate, and I don't want to go into politics. Factually, these things are in Parliament. 2, the concluded agreements were concluded on Sunday. Today is Thursday. I don't think anyone in this country expects that they will go to Cabinet on Monday, and then on Thursday they will be in Parliament. But for me, I wanted to drive the debate back to what this moment means. We have contracts worth 4 billion. We have Eri and his team now. When you ask about where will the pipeline stand, as I said, there are 2 projects. There's Tilenga, which is in Bulisa. That one, early works have already started in that area. The second is Tanga. As OO said, the reasons for Tanga are technical. Why you start sloping, logistic issues and so on. But it's not like there's nothing happening here. All the other early works on the pipeline are happening here, including land acquisition, all the geotechnical studies and so on. They are all happening here. All right. So I think we should really try to redirect the debate to the substance of what the importance of this to this country.
Thank you. I'll come back to in a bit. Let's go to Honorable Eli Karhanga, joining us live from Bugolobi. The concerns that Honorable Sechikubo raises and the question of secrecy and on whose behalf the agreements are being signed. What's your take on that, sir?
Mr. Sabit, you know, my brother, Theodore Sechikubo, is a very senior member of parliament. He's a big legislator. And he has formed a forum on the side. It's not a committee of parliament, but it is like an NGO. So that forum has certain interests it's pursuing. But today, I am so happy he has raised these issues. And in fact, he has done us justice. Because when we come to media like now, people, many people who are doubting Thomas's always ask these type of questions. They ask me, why are we going to the pipeline? Why not the refinery? Why are we starting in Tanga? Why are we not starting in Hoima? What is going to happen? Uganda is only going to get $5 out of this whole thing. He wrote such a long time, Mr. Amin, he was writing on social media. You know, so when Mr. Sechikubo brings it out here, it is very good, and I'm very happy that he has brought it, because now we have an opportunity to answer them. And so that the people's hearts, the doubting Thomases, can see the mark on the palm of Jesus' hand. For example, let me start with, why start with Tanga and not Hoima? And why start with Tanzania and not Uganda? When the pipes come, which are going to form the pipeline, they will most probably come through Tanzania, because that's where the port is. And Tanzania's portion of the pipeline is 1,400 and maybe 45 kilometers, the longest heated pipeline in the world. Uganda's portion of the pipeline is only 296 kilometers, less than 300 kilometers. The rest, 1,100 something, is all in Tanzania. Now, when these pipes come and they're imported, they are specialized pipes. They have to be coated with some special paint, and there will be a coating plant, which is going to be, and they could, ideally should have been 2, but that would cost us, because one coating plant could be $100 million. So then we would be losing money. So I think they have decided to use only one coating plant. Now that coating plant will have to be put somewhere in the center of the journey to make it reasonable. Now when the pipes come and they are being coated, they will be coated most likely in Tanzania. And therefore it is reasonable that you start the journey there. And the journey of Uganda is a very short journey. And that will just be a conclusive journey. Now, so this is not a debate which should affect us. Where should the road start? What is important is that the road between here and Jinja should be, and Sechikubu was helped to raise your money. So they want to de-risk the money they have invested. And the only way they do that is to be assured that there is a pipeline, and the pipeline will allow them to access the oil they have discovered in upstream, where it is, to the world markets at a price which is capable of recovering their investment. So they are very keen to have the crude out of Uganda through a pipeline. They are not so keen on the refinery. And it took the government a long time, many years, to negotiate with them, to convince them. And finally, President Museveni and his team were able to convince the oil companies to allow Uganda to build a refinery. But the investors in the refinery would not be happy if they are not sure that the investors in the upstream, Total and Sinopec, are going to get the oil out of the ground. They can't get the oil out of the ground unless they are sure that they can sell the oil to the world market. So now that that has been sorted, now the investors in the refinery are happy because now they know they can get their 60,000 barrels per day, which is coming out of the 230 that will be produced. So now both the refinery is happy because they have de-risked the investment they were going to put in the refinery, and then build a refinery and then have no oil. And the pipeline investors are happy, and the upstream investors are happy. And so this is what we call de-risking a business. So we are moving in tandem. And so this excitement of the refinery, the pipeline, is because people don't believe that the companies and government involved in the negotiations, they know what they are doing. These are people who know what they are doing. And they do it in the best interest, not only of their own shareholders, who are the people of Uganda, and the shareholders of these oil companies, but also in the interest of the business. And let me tell you, we have signed with these people for 25 years, plus 5 years, 30 years, and more companies are coming, like Oranto Petroleum, like Ama Energy. 5 new licenses are being given, and they have shortlisted the companies. More companies are going to discover oil. All these people are going to come here if they know that we have de-risked the upstream and people can sell their oil to the world. And by the way, this will also spur the Democratic Republic of Congo to finalize their business and start pumping their oil through our pipeline to the Indian Ocean. So this whole exercise of the pipeline, the refinery, the debate has taken years and has been sorted. And lastly, I want to assure, I know Mr. Sechikubu, by the way, understands all these things, and I think he's just asking them for the benefit of his audience. But I just want to, maybe just one thing I want you to know is that Uganda has now finally signed an agreement with Transparency International. Actually, I've been involved in the negotiations with Transparency International, and we have signed this agreement. So whatever is being spent by government, whatever is being received by government, whatever the oil companies are spending, they will have to declare it transparently. And members of parliament can access that report. And so accountability in oil and gas is no longer a secret. Those are old days when oil companies took advantage of many African countries. But these days, everybody is awake. The concerns on the environment protection are very high. Concerns on transparency are very high. I'm glad Parliament is awake and has passed excellent laws. I'm glad the negotiators of government who negotiated with oil companies struck a very, very good deal for our country. And I'm glad that finally on the historical day of 11th of April, which has got a double barrel, has finally come to pass. And critically, business has left Amber House and gone to the field. These people, oil companies, have been at pains to get out of the negotiation rooms with the government and go to the field and start work, which is what brought them in the first place.
Okay.
So work has started. Private sector colleagues are excited. It's not easy, by the way, to get jobs in oil companies because the standards are very, very high. We are training, we are skilling, and we are doing everything possible. I hope this has explained these matters to the audience of Mr. Sechikubo.
No, but...
and I'm sure Mr. Sechikubo knew all these things, but being a very good politician, he was really trying to reach his audience and his forum, and maybe some of the people who sponsor that forum.
But you see...
All right, Honorable Sechikubo, just hold it. We're due for a break. When you come back, you'll have the time to respond to these issues. But if you have a question or comment on the conversation that we're having, the hashtag is NBS Frontline. We'll be sampling some of the questions from the audience. My panel this evening, Honorable Eli Karuhanga, President, Uganda Chamber of Mines, as well as the chairperson of the board of the Private Sector Foundation, Mr. Ofono Opondo Podel, the government spokesman, Mr. Ali Sekatawa is Director, Legal and Corporate Affairs at the National Petroleum Authority, and the Honorable Theodore Sechikubo from Lemioga County chairs the Parliamentary Forum on Oil and Gas. We take a break, we'll return in a bit.
NBS Frontline.
It's a brand new day, yeah. Let your beauty show as your hair glows. With Radiant, everything comes to life when you arrive. And should you ever look back, let it be to gaze upon your radiant day. Rise up, African queen, fix your crown, yeah. Rise up, African queen, fix your crown, yeah. Radiant, look good, feel great.
Today tastes like a new tradition, like an old favorite. Tastes like all hands on deck and all eyes on the prize. Today tastes like a piece of the action. And it never tasted this good.
We improve your lighting experience. Come to Chint today to get all the electrical supplies you need. One source, total solution. Switch to the best with Chint Uganda. Quality out of dedication.
Where's Bob? Anyone seen Bob? Has anyone seen Bob? 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 Bob!
Over here.
Where?
Over here.
How did you get in there?
With my Airtel Money MasterCard.
Airtel Money MasterCard? But you don't even have a bank account. How did you get a card?
Well, it's not a card, but it works just like one. It's virtual, so no plastic, and it's safer.
But what are you doing there?
I want to buy Nancy a birthday gift, book my flight tickets, renew my Big Click subscription, and order a shipment.
For all things online, the Airtel Money MasterCard. It's not a card, but works just like one. Get one on the Airtel Money menu on your phone.
It's more than just a drink. It's a sleek black canister of carbonated energy, fizzing with thirst-quenching high-performance liquids designed to propel your endurance and pick your focus to the absolute max. Drink a Rock Boom high-performance energy drink. Rock Boom. Feel the positive energy.
NBS Frontline.
All right, about 10 minutes past the hour of 11. We're in the last hour of the NBS Frontline. Keep the questions or comments coming. Our hashtag is NBS Frontline. We'll be able to sample some of the questions from the public in regard to the conversations happening around our oil sector. Is this finally the ray of hope that the country has been waiting for? What are the issues, concerns, and as well as questions that we need to answer as a country before the real business that we've been waiting for actually kicks off? My panel this evening, the Honorable Eli Karuhanga is President of the Chamber of Mines, Chairman of the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda, and as well as a former Member of Parliament. I think I should add that the Honorable Theodore Sechikubo is Member of Parliament for Remiaga County, and as well as the Chairman of the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Oil and Gas. Mr. Ofono Opondo Podel is the Government Spokesman and Executive Director of the Uganda Government Media Center, and Mr. Ali Sekatawa is the Director, Legal and Corporate Affairs at the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. We're looking at the issues around the oil sector after the significant development of April 11th. Honorable Sechikubo, by the time we took the break, the Honorable Eli Karuhanga and Mr. Sekatawa here were responding to the issues that you raised. Are you satisfied that the questions have been adequately answered?
I would have expected them to explain and articulate issues involved in the signings that so far have taken place. But let me tell you this and to the viewers. You see, oil is a finite resource. Say 45 years, and it shall be exhausted. But we want to see the impact of this oil, the benefits spread and help this country out of poverty and among other things. And that's why for each option we have, there are alternatives. We could be standing from different points of view, but we all, I think, are intended to be scoring in the same goal. Whether the Parliamentary Forum is an NGO, whether, as he was saying, we are now entering politics, whether we have funders who fund us for us to speak out on these things. I think that's very unfortunate of Honorable to have such matters of great public importance to be reduced to funders. And I really hope Honorable Eli Karuhanga should tell this country the matters, the critical matters he used to raise in Parliament, whether he was being paid, whether he was being funded by somebody else, some other entities outside Parliament. But he's my senior, and I would like to leave it at that. But the sticking out issues, Sabit, is we can make the best out of this oil. Why are we so desperate? Why are all forces being built up in a desperate manner? Mind you, this oil is not the magic wand. That's why when we're undertaking the oil resource, it has been in the underground for many centuries of years, millions of years. It had formed underground. But now that we have the opportunity to exploit it, can you pause a moment and look at the alternatives? Yes.
Do you want to suggest them?
Yes, you say we have the pipeline. Fine, thank you so much. But we are saying, can we look at some other ways? Mind you, we are burdened by that airport. And once that oil is depleted, I wonder whether you shall be having a functional airport at Hoima. I don't know. But look at the alternatives that we have. Are the people involved? Now when Honorable Eric Arang is saying that the public, the private sector is excited, who are the private sector who are excited? Where are the opportunities? Where are the equal opportunities for them? Which opportunities are there for the local Ugandans to involve and participate in this oil bonanza? And that's why we are saying, yes, we needed this pipeline, but Sinuk and Total are not charity organizations. They have their business interests at heart. They're extending a hand, not to help you out of your poverty, but to foster and promote their interests. That's why you must look at them soberly. And these are the very arguments that have been used around the world. Look at Nigeria. Look at Angola. Look at all these oil-producing countries. So that's why I'm saying, yes, we are so lucky that we are coming in at the tail end almost of all the other discoveries. Other countries have taken a path. With all the attendant problems, look at the environment. The safeguards taken to protect the environment. Sabit. This oil is being extracted from a biodiversity, an ecosystem that is so rich, a tourist hub of this country in the Albertine Graben region. And mind you, if we sustainably protect our environment, this oil will deplete. But the environment and the tourists must stay if we manage this well. And lastly, my final shot on the question of the pipeline vis-a-vis the refinery. The refinery triggers off other many advantages. The car parts are extracted from this oil because our oil is so rich. It is a waxy oil. You can have the fertilizers, you can have the pharmaceuticals, you can have many other resultant activities coming out of the refinery. You shall promote the local market of our oil and the regional market once you have a refinery. So you have had your sway, Director. You've had your sway, you have convinced government, you've convinced the president to abandon, I know you want to agree with that statement, okay, to go slow on the refinery. You have promoted the pipeline, but are you delivering Ugandans to where you want everybody to reach?
All right, let him take it up.
Honorable, from a conceptual level, is raising very valid points. And I totally agree with him. The questions he's raising, they are conceptually. What I wanted to assure him and the viewers is that these are questions that have been studied. And I will start with the question of the alternatives. The alternative of whether we go for a refinery or pipeline.
Or both.
Or both has been a subject of over 4 studies. And we negotiated it for over 2 years, ferociously with the oil companies, until we reached a compromise, as Honorable Eddie said, and said, let's have both. Whichever comes first can start, but the refinery will have what you call a first right of call. The moment we start production, every day, whatever comes out, the refinery takes 60,000. Now, remember that the developers of the refinery are different, and maybe that's where I need, and we've made these reports to Parliament. The progress of the refinery. What we had yesterday is, on 11th, is with the developers of the pipeline. That's why probably there's quietness on the refinery. The refinery is being developed by a consortium called Albertine Graben Refinery Company. There are 4 companies. It's being developed in Milan as we speak now. In terms of progress, we have finished and approved the configuration study of the technical design of it. The step now that it is on is what is called the FEED, the front engineering design. That's where we are, and it is probably around 70%. Right now, despite COVID, that work is going on. The second major work is actually what he is saying, because it requires environmental studies based on international standards, equator principles, that's what they call them. Now we have companies doing those studies right now for the refinery. For the pipeline and the Tilenga, those studies were done, international, they have been audited, they are on website, you can go on the Total website, on the PAU website. The environmental studies were done, the certificates were issued by NEMA during COVID, and I think that's what Honorable OO was saying, the work that has been done during COVID, because all those environmental studies and audits were done for the pipeline and Tilenga. For the refinery, they are ongoing. And the third part of the refinery is the acquisition of land. Again, in terms of government commitment to the refinery, you well know that we acquired already 29 square miles of land.
29.5.
29.5, thank you. 5 of those square miles have been gazetted for the refinery in Hoima, and they are already there. The land now we are acquiring is the one from Hoima to Mpiji, because that's where we are going to have the storage facility for the white product. The land in Mpiji has already been acquired. So it's only the corridor from Hoima. So I think in terms of the priorities and the advantages from a conceptual level that Honorable Sechikubo is raising, yes, they are valid, but yes, those options were evaluated and we have taken a compromise position, as I indicated, and as the Honorable Eli, and 2, the progress is there. And then maybe secondly, what is in for Ugandans?
And the everyday Ugandans, especially, not the ones who wear expensive suits and sit in big boardrooms. 2 things. Yes. We first did a study of the capacity of Ugandans in 2007. And that study established the baseline for which we've been doing. And we identified the areas where Ugandans are strong. And those are the areas that you've had the 16 special areas gazetted for Ugandans. We have done interventions from 2. The second is that we are doing a project called Economic Interlinkages. The Economic Interlinkages project is probably what Eri was saying, but at a higher level. It is that what is the impact of oil on tourism? So when we do the oil roads, the 8 oil roads we are doing in Hoima, we are linking them to what advantage do they give to tourists. We are dealing with Ministry of Health to see what special privileges we can all do to improve the health system there. We have done urban planning in that area. We have taken we are doing water. 2 months ago, we launched what is called the Kirama Water Project in Bulisa. Bulisa is a water-stressed area. We have done agriculture. We are doing cassava enhancement programs in Bulisa. We are doing fish farming projects in Bulisa. And I invite Honorable Sechikubo, and probably, we took Parliament there, but we can now take them on the program. Some of these projects are there. They are real. You can see them. And the pipeline. And lastly, what you need to know is what we are lucky with Parliament. They gave us a super law. As he said, it is true. We've discovered oil 50 years after. So they went all over, Parliament went all over the world and looked for best practices. One of the best tools we have designed in our law is the National Content Law and Regulations. And we are implementing, and it gives priority to jobs, services to Ugandans. These companies now, before they get a work permit for any of their employees, they have to demonstrate that they have advertised and failed to get an equally qualified person. As a result of that, if you walked into any of their offices, you will find that between 60 to 70 of the employees for the licensed companies and the contractors and subcontractors are Ugandans. I think that's a plus. So for me, Honorable is raising very good questions. We've made these reports to Parliament, the national content performance and so on. And I think, I wouldn't say we are maybe exceptionally there, but we are on the right trajectory. Okay. I've just gotten a question on my phone coming in from a gentleman called Godfrey, and he's asking why the opportunities that you and Honorable Eli are talking about are kept secret from the public. That's a question coming from.
I don't know.
I think that there's a fundamental information gap between the boardrooms and the everyday Ugandan.
No. I think there's a fundamental problem with all of us in consumption of information. If I told you the amount of workshops, the amount of TV programs and radio programs and websites, all adverts, for example, for the industry are on PAU website. We have requested all suppliers, and I requested them now because, I mean, this is the down. Even now, if you're a supplier, please go to the National Supplier Database. If you're talented Ugandans, we have the National Oil and Gas Register. We have run a very transparent process. We invited all bidders for this project, the major bidders, to make presentation to all suppliers and qualified people. And Eric can testify because we invited all of them. The process has been transparent, but it is common for even tomorrow, the person watching here, for him to come and say, I did not hear about it.
Okay, thank you. Honorable, you'll come in. Let me just deal with it. Ali, on the other side of the world, you and others represented the country in the tax, tribunal case. And for me, that's a classic example of maybe why this process that we are undertaking, maybe why Honorable Sechikubo raises the question of opening them up to examination so that we don't get to that level. You were lucky you went ahead and won the case. But what if we sign something that's, that later results into something like that?
That's true.
Yes.
But we are not just lucky. We are not just lucky. We also had a good framework that we were working on. Okay?
Yes.
It's not luck. There is no luck in that area. It is that we were under an affront and it found a good framework of agreements that we were working in. In respect to transparency, let me say this. I think the industry is moving towards total transparency. I wouldn't say there is anything being hidden. What I have said is that all the production sharing agreements that were signed in this country are in Parliament. Parliament, ideally, they are the representatives of the people. There is nowhere in the world where there are commercial agreements, you find them on the streets or websites. And I challenge you, nowhere, whether in America, Canada, and so on. 2, the last agreement, that one again is in Parliament. 3, the last agreements we signed were on Sunday. And as I said, there is a government, which is the executive. The law that was made by Honorable Sechikubo says those ones are approved by cabinet, and then after, they will go to Parliament under the normal reporting processes of Parliament. So there's nothing being hidden in my view. We are following the protocols as is, but also government now has signed to the Extractive Industries Initiative. By February 2022, we are going to be giving the first report of this country. The members of that body include civil society organization, include the private sector and government. And that Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, it's about transparency. It's about publish what you pay and what you receive. And government is committed to do that.
All right.
Let me just say the extractive agreement he's talking about was done by the cabinet of Uganda, not Parliament. And so that demonstrates the readiness, the willingness of this government to be examined fully. 2,
did it bypass Parliament?
I am saying it was passed by cabinet. Most likely, I need to check if the minister responsible laid the papers on table of Parliament, but that's supposed to be done. Yeah, this should have been like 8-9 months ago, actually. And now you cannot export, you cannot trade in any extractive without disclosing its amount, its origin, its owner. That's in a nutshell what it's supposed to be. But I don't see why Sechikubo should hold it against Honorable Karuhanga. Certainly the forum has interests. If the interests are legitimate, they are transparent, I don't see why you should be worked up if we say you are speaking for the interest of either the owners or the funders of the forum. And if you really wanted it to speak, to be the legitimate voice of the people of Uganda, since 2011, how come you have not mainstreamed the forum into a formal committee of parliament? Because the committee of parliament is the direct representative.
There's a committee on natural resources.
No, this is what I'm saying. So why have a forum when you have a committee of natural resources which legitimately represents the interest of Uganda? And I'm simply saying the forum has interest, and it should not be shy to defend the interest of either the funders or whoever is funding that forum. He shouldn't be shy or be angry about it. But let me go to the questions you are asking about what is there for the ordinary person. Only yesterday, following the signing on Sunday, I saw Total, they have been advised by Total, calling on heavy equipment drivers to register with them for training, for skilling, because they think they are now going to give out contracts. They would want Ugandans with proven certification for driving these things. Only yesterday. I also saw another advert, I think between Total, sponsored by Total, and I think Stanbic Bank, where they are calling young people with skills, with projects, which they want to be mentored, to be supported financially by the banks. Only yesterday, you can go and check. And this is on the website, actually, of the oil company and the petroleum authority. But the most basic, I have been to Albertine region a couple of times. I think today, you can go to Bulisa and round off those districts of Bunyoro and return on account of very good roads. As he said, if you go to Hoima, Hoima is a city, even before it was gazetted so. You can go up to Pirenga, you can go up to first-class roads, electricity. And one other thing I found, that the Sechikubo was passed a policy, I think a policy or a law, the local content, I think which reserves, is it 40% or 30%? 48% for Ugandans. So the onus is on us Ugandans and everybody else to ensure that we tickle Ugandans to see where the opportunities lie. Like I said, there are 16 areas that are reserved. And I would implore Ugandans, particularly young people or even business people, to go and check from the website to see what are some of the areas, for example, construction, is food. If you are going to do the pipeline 320 kilometers, do you know the amount of posho, the amount of beans, the amount of porridge, the amount of meat, the amount of matoke, the amount of potatoes? Are you telling me that we are going to import the potatoes and matoke from Brazil? That's something for the ordinary people. The other thing I found out, and Honorable Sechikubo, it is President Museveni who insisted on the refinery. And consequent of which, we now even have an industrial and investment park in that area, in that Kibali, outside the airport. The industrial investment park, investment and business park. What is it for? All this land, almost 30 square miles. What is it for? Now, I also found out when the times I've been visiting there, that just the local people, there's even a work which is reserved for people of Chikuve, for people of Bulisa, for people of Hoima, for people of Bunyoro. And then there's work that is reserved for Ugandans. So if you ask, what are the local? For example, you cannot go and... It's called local. You cannot go to drive a tractor which is opening the road, access road, to the airport if you are not somebody from Hoima or from Bulisa. That's how low it is. It is because I have been to Kibale Airport. Yes, I have been to Industrial Park.
How did you ascertain the origin of those? How did you know that this one is from the villages?
No. Because I went to the project, for example, the airport construction, and I spoke to management, and I asked them several questions. And among the things I asked them was the labor force. Where do you get? Then they told me how labor is categorized.
You're the government spokesman. Yes. You want to look good in your face.
Yes, I'm telling you. But I am challenging you. I am challenging you. I have now told you, if you think I am lying, I challenge you, Sabiti. I can fund you, if NBS can't, to go there and find, corroborate, try to cross-check whether I'm telling a lie or not. One other thing I found, for example, in Tirenga, in particular, in Bulisa, they have constructed a primary school near the oil where they drilled. They constructed a primary school. They constructed a secondary school and a health center. I also found there's actually something like an estate. People who were previously in around grass-thatched huts are now in permanent, not even our local bricks, but cement block houses.
All right.
Thank you. There are things for the people within the local, as it says. There are things for the people of Uganda. But also, this oil in Hoima, it is not in Bunyoro. If you have been reading government literature, government is discovering other deposits in other parts of the country. And so the infrastructure, our expectation is that, for example, if the one they are discovering in eastern Uganda, northeastern Uganda, we expect that the experience we are going to gain in the Albertine region should help us move faster, move better in those areas.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. And Honorable Eric Arhanga, the other time when we were on this show, said, actually, if you are waiting for the oil to start coming out from the ground, then perhaps you have already missed the benefits.
You see,
the benefits are actually now, we need to start to be now. If you want to supply food to a local subcontractor, for example, you need to register a business now. You need to open a bank account now, so that by the time the construction starts, you are able to borrow money. You're able to know who's going to supply you with the posho, who's going to supply you with the meat, who's going to supply you with... But if you are going to wait, that you are waiting to see the drop of oil first, so then you think you are going to benefit. Most likely, it will have bypassed
thank you. Honestly, I'll come to you, but I wanted us to go back to Bugolobi and speak to Honorable Eli Karuhanga. He has been silently following the conversation from that side. I don't know if we have him still with us. All right, right there. Honorable, we're counting down to the last few minutes of our conversation here. But again, the question people are asking is, look, these multinationals come with huge vested interest. They have done things in other parts of the country, rather in other parts of the world, and you know, the oil curse has become a reality. Just how much are we putting as a safeguard, you know, as a country? How much are we protecting our national interests from these huge multinationals that you very, you know, well speak about?
Before I answer you, I want to thank you, Sabiti, for moderating this program very well. I'm very impressed by your understanding. I don't know whether I'm on air now or not.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So, having thanked you, I just want to point out a few things, which are just interesting for conversation's sake. When you are on this type of programs and you meet people like OO and Honorable Sechikugo, these are sharp tongues who have very smart and long experience in these affairs. So try and make sure that you don't step on their foot, because they can come for you. Now, I am not in that business because I really, whatever I'm saying it just so that the listeners can understand what it is that has happened to Uganda. For example, going back to refinery and to the question you are asking, a company called Saipem from Italy and another one from Turkey, I think it's Idugu, by June, they will finish the front-end engineering design. That is what they are planning. And front-end engineering design are just many complicated words which are difficult to understand by the listeners. But it means these are people who are designing the refinery from the beginning of the engineering design to the end, when they can hand over the refinery, and whoever wants to invest in it will just find everything that is required, including employment, including staff, everything. So the refinery is now ready, and it's ready in June because now the investors will be very pleased because they know the oil will be coming. Now, on the 5th and 6th of May, the Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, together with Private Sector Foundation and all our other associations, we are going to have an international oil and gas conference. We have been having these oil and gas conferences every year, and also mining conferences in October and November. But in May, a few weeks, we are having this conference. We had reserved on air, on Zoom, 1,000 people to attend. We've been overwhelmed already, and people have demanded 3,000 people who are going to attend. Today, when I called the people who organized the Oil Week in Cape Town from London, they told me they would like to participate, and can we go up to 6,000 people to attend. What is happening is that there has been so much interest in Uganda, and we have asked His Excellency the President to be our guest of honor on those days to open it, together with other leaders. So there is an interest. Now the issue is, what are Ugandans? Are Ugandans going to be overwhelmed? Ugandans are going to be overwhelmed. Because on the 20th of this month, in a week's time, I will be hosting 500 Russians who want to come and invest in Uganda. We've just finished with the Greeks. We've finished with the Indian communities. We've been talking to the Belgians and other organizations, the British and the French. Everybody is going to be coming to Uganda to try their luck on this opportunity. Remember that there are no new provinces of oil being discovered around the world. This is a very unique situation we are in. And at this time, most of the companies who were involved worldwide have laid their tools because there is no job. So we are buying this equipment and this labor at a very low price in the world market to exploit our resources. There is no better time than this for Uganda to have exploited this. So what have we done in light of this big rain coming into Uganda, rain season of wealth coming into Uganda to protect Ugandans? You members of parliament, Honorable Sechikubo, thank you so much because you are in the limelight, you are in front in fighting for local content. And I really, really appreciated you. So we have ring-fenced 16 sectors for Ugandan companies only. No one will come to do security business in that area when they are not Ugandans. Nobody will do catering, and catering is very complicated. Some of the camps are 5,000, 10,000 people. So catering will be reserved for Ugandans. Insurance, professional services are all reserved for Ugandans. Transport, logistics, our friends in Kenya are going to benefit quite a lot because Mombasa is going to be a beehive of activity. But Ugandans are going to be in the forefront because we have reserved logistics, freight forwarding, clearing for them. So 16 sectors, engineering, sand, quarry, borers, what you call maram, all these supplies are for supply of food items, health, name it. And these are all reserved. The problem we are having, and why we hold these conferences every year for the last 10 years, is that we have been drumming. We have been doing what the Baganda call Gwanga Muje. Please come and hear and participate in this thing, because the whole idea is to train them, to skill them, so they can meet international standards that are required to supply oil companies. The company which discovered oil here was a company called Hardman Resources. The chairman of Hardman Resources, when he came to Uganda, he went to see where the oil had been discovered. Just before they were bought by Talo, he had appointed me to be president of his company. That's how I started my journey with oil business, where I even received in my office the first drop of oil that came out. I've been having it. When he came, he went to Hoima, and he was served fish, and fish had salmonella. He came, he almost died in a hotel in Kampala. And when we held the party to celebrate the discovery of oil, the man was ringing in his bed. I could go there and find him crying. So we cannot afford such expensive people to come here and eat untested food, which is not prepared without international standards.
Okay.
When we went in Pakwach to do the environmental impact assessment approval with the population, companies who had come from abroad wanted to go and have meals in a restaurant around Pakwach. Lo and behold, water was being given to you if you had done some kintu kidogo to one of the waiters. The water was not available. Food, chips, the way they were being served. People had to drive from there at night to come back to Kampala. So we have to ensure that the Ugandans, we call these conferences so that we can train them to improve their position, their services, and be able to meet the requirement, the high standards, which are very, very high, of oil and gas supplies. But they have been reserved, ring-fenced, strongly by law. And a committee on local content has been set up in the ministry. And this committee was approved by Parliament. And the people on it were also approved by Parliament. And the PS is the chairman of Mr. Kasande, is the chairman of this local content committee, with very important objectives to ensure that Ugandans and oil companies observe the local content requirements by law. And we're also putting up a local content fund. And this fund is to help these companies to access financing. Private banks like Stanbic have put up a very good facility, what they call the incubator. They have trained more than 1,000 Ugandans, preparing them how to write tenders to oil companies to get these contracts. So the road is clean, and the Ugandans, all we have to do is to make sure that they just wake up. It's not easy for them to wake up because it took long. Some of the companies who came and participated, they burnt their fingers. They borrowed money, oil wasn't coming out, they lost money, and they have this proverb, once bitten, twice shy. I went in there, I lost my money, I almost became bankrupt, I sold my house. Now they want me to go back to do business in oil and gas. I'm not going. But no, please, there is a time for everything. As Shakespeare said, there is always a time which must be taken at the flood. If you do not take the time when the opportunity is there and you lose the current when it serves, you will end up in miseries. So do not miss this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable.
We are looking for, let me just conclude this. We are encouraging Ugandans to partner with international companies in these ring-fenced businesses so that they can help them to up their game and also access capital, easy capital, and be able to satisfy the requirements of oil and gas. And so it is important that these Ugandan companies, please look for services, legal services to support you so that you have good agreements with international companies to help you to win tenders. So don't sit back and say, oil and gas has come, Ugandans have been ring-fenced, I will walk in there, I will not know how to fill the thing, and I will get the business. It won't happen. And Mr. Sechikubo will go to Parliament and say that Ugandans are being left out. And these companies have been given deadlines. They must perform. If they do not perform, they will be penalized for not performing.
All
so
right.
we have an opportunity. The opportunity has been given to us, but I can assure you the Chamber of Mines and Petroleum is inviting you to participate. Come, let's get rolling. The opportunity has come, and we must not fail to kick the ball.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Eli Karuhanga, and thank you so much for your time. We appreciate the fact that you stayed up all night, late night, to have this conversation with us. Let's sum up the conversation right here. I'll start with you, the question of protecting our interests as a country against the huge multinationals that are entering the oil industry, buying from experiences in Nigeria and you know the story of the DRC because of minerals. What assurance does the government of Uganda give in that direction?
Well, the world is not a charity. Even when Christianity came, they told you to close your eyes so that during the prayers they took everything.
Oh, you don't believe in Christianity.
No. The world has never been a charity. The onus is on Ugandans generally, but more specifically those who are in leadership, to make sure that they are alert. And so our government, all this long time we have taken, including the back and forth in Parliament, has been an attempt to ensure that we get the best deal. And I think so far we are succeeding. You are the one who had just asked Sekatawa about the golden handshake, you remember 2017. That going to court for arbitration was an effort and was a demonstration that you won't cheat Ugandans because of your global prowess in oil matters. And we succeeded. And the back and forth over refinery, where should it pass, should it go to via Kenya, and so on and so forth, again, has demonstrated that so far, our leadership, especially the president, has been able to get for us the best of deals. You have just heard about the proposed tariffs for transporting and the other attendant benefits, which Secretary here has alluded to, alternative routes. Because since the world was made, Uganda has been relying for international passage on land on one route. Isn't it a good idea that this thing is eventually coming to fruition, that Uganda is able to develop an alternative route? 3, this is part of the Northern Corridor projects. When we are interlinked with DRC, with Rwanda, with Sudan, all of us were being told in geography that a landlocked country is finished. Now we have seen that Uganda has the potential to actually become a tributary.
And we're still being told the same in school.
To distribute. I wish, I used to be a geography teacher actually.
It's the same thing they're teaching our children. Yes.
I wish I could go back. I would say, no, Uganda now is going to be a tributary, the one distributing.
Okay.
And so we must pay attention to the infrastructure. But let me just conclude briefly with the issue of environment. Yes, our environment is being destroyed, but the environment is being destroyed not just by big businesses. In our case, environment is being destroyed by the poor people. So if this oil and petroleum can help us lift people out of poverty so that they don't use firewood, they don't cut forests, they don't go into wetlands to grow rice and yams, which cannot even take them for 3 months of the month to feed them. I think we shall be able to protect the environment along. Of course, especially for the people in the NGO world, they like singing this thing of environment. But if you ask them, my elder brother, James, if you ask them how many trees have they planted, the ones who are shouting environment, ask them, ask these people in the NGO world, a few go, I don't know what, these members of parliament, ask them how many trees.
The responsibility of protecting protecting the environment is for you, the government.
No. It should be for each of us. It should be. The government can lead, but it should be. The government is not going to protect your 1 acre piece of land or 2 if you don't plant windbreakers around your banana plantation. You don't expect the government to do so. So I'm simply saying, actually, poverty in Africa is what is leading to faster destruction of the environment. And therefore, if there is an opportunity, yes, we should do environmental impact assessment, social impact assessment, but when we get the money and we lift people out of extreme poverty, we shall be in a better position.
All right,
like when that gas began coming from Tanga to Tanzania to Uganda, and we are able to get liquefied gas for ordinary homes to use for cooking, then you would see no charcoal trucks from Zombo, no charcoal trucks from Amoro, from Pade. It will stop.
Thank you. Mr. Ali Sekatawa, from your perspective, from the perspective of the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, a very crucial institution in this process, do you think we shall navigate past what is referred to in Africa as the oil curse, as you also give your parting shot to the viewers this evening?
Sabit, thank you. I think we've already navigated it. I think the infrastructure we have right now, so far, is testimony that we have actually navigated it. Before we even pull out the first drop for sale.
That's more tense when the big boys land here.
Yeah, but before we pull out even 1 barrel, I think the testimonies, and I'm so humbled here by the testimony of OO, by the testimony of Senior Eddie, because their testimonies are a testimony, one, of what is happening on the ground. They have gone on the ground. You can no longer hide these facts before we even get 1 barrel. So far, I think we have navigated that. 2, the testimony of the work of Honorable Sechikubu and his team, because they put up a very robust legal and infrastructure framework based on international standards. And these are the only things that can, save you from that curse. And then lastly is the policy of government of empowering its people. Training, I think you saw at the ceremony when we went for signing, the president, talked about of close between 200 and 300 people he has so far empowered across the country. So empowering the people to take charge of the industry. So I think so far, so good. And my parting shot is that I would really
maybe before that, when do we expect Tanzania to put ink to paper? Is there a deadline to that?
For the HGA?
Yes.
Yeah, I think maybe like next week or a week after. Because the HGA was ready between Tanzania and the company, and it was here in State House. But maybe OO is a better diplomat than me. The Tanzanian delegation said it's not proper for us to go into another state, and we sign our agreement from there. So would like a day when we go there. So it's just a formality.
All right, finally.
Finally is to thank you for hosting me, but also to implore the Ugandan public on optimism. I think let's enjoy this moment. Let's see the way you said what opportunities we can take out of this moment. This is a huge moment, not only for Uganda, but for East Africa. As I said earlier, this is the only project in sub-Saharan Africa that has been sanctioned during the COVID year. Do not undermine that. Let's see how we can take advantage of it. Secondly, let us look at our partners, as friends of Uganda. As OO said, they are businessmen, they are not charity organizations, but we welcome them. I think we shouldn't treat them too much with,
we shouldn't give our country to them also.
We should not, and we have done an infrastructure to do that. but they are investors, they are partners, they have come to develop the country with us.
Right.
So at every level, as Eri said, Indians are coming, Russians are coming, and so on. It is then disheartening for me to find that Ugandans are still in this business of, oh, oil is going at night, oh, and so on. These people who are coming know that the reality has come. And therefore, it's upon us to realize that moment and take advantage of it.
Thank you very much. Probably.
Joseph, you don't need big people to overrun Africa. The ones who overrun Africa were small people with the Bible. No, not even a weapon.
Oh, they have returned in the names of big multinationals, and especially in the oil sector.
I'm saying you don't need them to be big.
Oil takes down nations
If
and
you are
takes down
disorganized,
governments.
even a small fellow will overrun you.
Okay. Yes. And then finally, the Honorable Theodore Sechiko will have the last word tonight.
Thank you, Sabit. And I would have wanted to be on the same page with my colleagues here. We all want to move forward. We all want to have the best out of these signings. Oil, fortunately, raised the issue of oil being a curse or a blessing. When we mismanage it, we can easily take a path to a curse. But if we do it the other way around, we all stand to benefit. Sabiti, I wouldn't want to indulge in colorful language. The high expectations, the rosy picture being painted. Sabiti, it's true, we have the oil roads. But the oil roads per se would not transform the lives of Ugandans, and which is a critical matter. Sabiti, wherever there are discoveries, you are sure there would be oil activities, and they lead to displacement. You therefore need a pro-people resettlement program. Sabit, it's not enough to say that there are opportunities. You move ahead and show which opportunities are we talking about. Honorable Eri has just demonstrated to us that the chairman of Hardman, when he ate a fish from Lake Albert, he was almost dying. But it's also a fact that Mr. Sekatawa here knows very well. Even the fish that is eaten around Lake Albert is airlifted from Kampala. The chicken, eggs, all are airlifted from Kampala. And from Kampala, you are aware we have eggs from Kenya, we have eggs from South Africa, etc. So it therefore requires not only to talk about the opportunities available, but to take deliberate efforts to build the capacity of our local people so that they can participate. The construction of roads per se is not a panacea to the involvement and the uplifting of Ugandans. You can have roads, yes, but they remain white elephant, only used in the furtherance of the oil extraction, but not in helping the lot of the people. And that's very dangerous. Yes, we can have these good things happening, but where are the people? If you leave the people behind, then you are not living up to your expectations. And lastly, for me, Sabit and viewers, the tariff and transport agreement we've just signed is a breakthrough. But what are the terms to Ugandans? You remember, South Sudan and Sudan had a bitter conflict over the tariff and transportation of oil from South Sudan. Those rates, whether they are more or less by $1, the total sum is too huge. So that's why, if I may really, unfortunately, there is no minister here. These friends and colleagues know it. They may not be aware
the government
that the disclosure is not to hide these agreements or the PSAs in one's briefcase. There is a formal laying on table. A formal laying on table is announced, and I would like to challenge Mr. Secretary, because he has repeatedly alluded to it, that these have been forwarded to Parliament. Since when have they been laid formally before Parliament. That's notwithstanding.
I think it's fair that you take
Of course, it can't be a Q&A.
No. Since you've mentioned that.
He's here. He's here.
I say the intergovernmental agreement, which was signed in 2017, was formally laid by Honorable Muloni, who was the minister then, and laid before Parliament. It is in the Speaker's office. The second is that the agreements now we are talking about were signed on Sunday. And I think even Honorable Sechikubo agrees that between Sunday and now, you are still ticking off I's.
Still in honeymoon.
And it has another process. So, but that IGA is in Parliament. The earlier production sharing agreements, as alluded to testified by OO, are also in Parliament before the Speaker. So there is really nothing to hide.
All right, fine. Honorable Sechikubo, final, yes.
We are in the same boat. We are in the same boat. We want to arrive there. But we can't arrive there by the colorful language of OO that he's displaying here. He's talking of fantasy. He has something in his mind. But come down to the ground. Where is it? Come down to the ground. Where is it? You cannot decree to say that let people participate, and indeed they participate. You must help the capacity of the local persons. We must know what kind of opportunities are available. We must be guided. What partnerships can we make?
Thank you so much.
In the furtherance of the interests of Ugandans. Short of that, submit. Once we've exhausted these oils, we shall inherit the aftermath of the oil, starting from the decommissioning into the environment, into looking at ourselves, the opportunities we've had. So it's better that we all win, and take this in good faith. You must not always look for winning an argument. It isn't only in winning an argument that you are a man. You can concede on some of these things. You can concede on some of these things in a gentleman's way. And though you are running in the peripheries, these are the issues you must answer.
Thank you very much. Our time is fast spent. The front line should have ended a couple of minutes ago, but thank you, Mr. Ofono Opondo Podel. Thank you, Ali Sekatawa from the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. Thank you, Honorable Sechikubo, for your time. These conversations continue. The best thing is that these conversations remain on record 20 years from now. The good thing is that 20 years from now, we will be revisiting these records and we'll be seeing where the country will be heading. From me and the team, it's a good morning.